what are the things that really tell the story of the hall? A block of wood, a pair of glasses. There's something about those things that resonates more with me than some really glamorous object.
Welcome to If This Hall Could Talk, a podcast from Carnegie Hall. I'm your host, Jessica Vosk, and in this series, we'll look at the legendary and sometimes quirky history of the hall. From momentous occasions to the eclectic array of world-renowned artists that have taken to the hall's stages, in each episode, we'll explore unique items from our archives collection and travel back in time to relive incredible moments that have shaped the culture we live in today. In this episode, Ella Fitzgerald's glasses.
I used to look at Ella's glasses, and George Wein or Norman Granz
Ella's promoters
would go out to the crowd before she would start, and they would say, please, no flash photography. Her eyes are weak, and never stop them. She would walk out, and of course there would be flash.
The legacy of Ella Fitzgerald cannot be underestimated. Widely known as the Queen of Jazz and the First Lady of Song, Ella was an impeccable singer. Her diction was unparalleled. Her work ethic was remarkable, and she was a band leader at a time when women did not lead bands. And she was full of firsts. First Black woman to sing at the Super Bowl halftime show, first Black woman to headline the Copacabana nightclub, and she was the first Black woman to win multiple Grammy Awards. She won 14 over her lifetime, 2 of which were at the very first Grammys. In this episode, we'll take a look and listen to Ella's music and see how the ordinary can be extraordinary. Some performers feel the need to look glamorous and flawless, but Ella never did that. She never made those around her feel she was anything more special, even though she was. And her glasses are a keen metaphor of that. By just being who she was, she changed the face of jazz singing forever.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Singer, Samara Joy.
I love Ella Fitzgerald because she's like a constant, like a well of ideas and of musicality and of creativity. Anytime that I listen to her, I'm like, I never could have imagined hearing this song this way. And yet every single time I'm like, whoa. And even when she scats too, there's just such a power, there's such a punch. And so maybe that's what I love too. I love the range, the fact that she can take the sweetest ballad and she can really put the emotion into it. But at the same time, you give her, any tempo, and she can hang with any musician, even cut some musicians when she scats and when she sings. So I think that's what I love the most. I love her range and her feel, her beat when she sings. I love that I can constantly go to her and go to her recordings, especially like the live recordings, for inspiration. I always think of a new way to do something whenever I listen to her.
It was always amazing to me to see how almost shy she was, how quiet she was, and she would get up on the stairs, and then whoever it was, whether it was John or Norman or George Wein, would say, and now the First Lady of Song.
Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of Song, Miss Ella Fitzgerald.
And she'd go out and knock them dead. It was just overwhelming to watch that.
She was a keen improviser, a mother, and possibly above all, a performer. Between 1947 and 1991,
Ella performed 45 times at Carnegie Hall.
and throughout her career, she always remained Ella. Ella Fitzgerald was a woman of no airs and an extraordinary singer. As her estate manager, Fran Rosman says,
"A magnificent woman with the best voice you ever heard."
in this episode of If This Hall Could Talk, we take Ella's iconic glasses as a jumping-off point to better understand the woman she was. But what do the glasses look like? Let me tell you. They are plastic frame glasses with large circular lenses, and they were thick. Boy, were they thick. Like she was looking through magnifying glasses. They were not sleek and fancy glasses. They were ordinary and normal looking, just like Ella herself. Until, that is, she stepped on the stage. Ella has been a role model for generations of female jazz vocalists who wouldn't be where they are without her. Take, for instance, the singer, Samara Joy.
Listen, Ella is a bad lady, whether she, knew it or not. And she probably did know it, but Ella's a bad lady. And bad in the sense that she's absolutely incredible. But who is Ella Fitzgerald? Ella Fitzgerald is the consummate singer. She has it all.
Samara comes from a musical family and grew up listening to gospel music and later jazz. The greats like Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday always caught her ear. But with Ella, there was something else. Samara could see parts of herself in her. Ella was down to earth and humble enough for us all to feel connected to her. And that's one of the things that made Ella, Ella. One of her most well-known songs, A Tisket a Tasket, is from a nursery rhyme.
She just loved to sing. That's part of what I see is, being kind of shy and soft-spoken, but on stage, I love it.
There were those moments where you were standing by the stage door, taking the house lights down, and the energy starts to begin inside the house with the audience in anticipation.
Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the greatest thing in jazz today, Ms. Ella Fitzgerald.
Gino Francesconi founded the archives at Carnegie Hall and spent nearly 2 decades working backstage.
And it didn't happen all the time, but when you could actually feel that this was going to be a magical moment even before any music started. And with her, there was always that sensation. Tonight's going to be special. And it was remarkable. I mean, I had the advantage of sitting on those backstage stairs many times for a number of events. And I used to reflect, thinking, I'm sitting not 15 feet away from this artist.
Up, he wants it. He wants it up. He wants it up.
Somebody told me, in her later years, she went on stage and she performed and she absolutely killed How High the Moon.
How high the moon is the name of this song.
And then she came off and was like, was that all right? And it was like, how is this legendary singer asking other musicians, was that okay?
You think about that, like, I don't know, especially for somebody was so shy and talks about, she would say things like, oh, I don't want to talk, I might say something wrong, I'm better when I sing it.
I like when she sings, Give Me the Simple Life. Yeah, that's what I like. I don't believe in fretting or grieving. Why mess around with strife?
I never was cut out to step and strut out.
Give me the simple life. Yeah, something like that.
Thank you very much. We'd like to do a number for you now. And
it's a very pretty tune, one we hope you like. Well, we hope you like it. Is this arranged all right here? In this world of ordinary people, extraordinary people, I'm glad there is you.
So who was Ella? What were the experiences that shaped her? Her early years were actually quite happy, but once she hit her teens, it became tumultuous. She didn't have it easy. Carnegie Hall archivist Rob Hudson.
Her mom was killed in a car accident when she was, I think, 15. And there was questions that maybe the stepfather abused her. And then, you know, she's at that tough age. She ends up in a reform school. You know, she's like running stuff for the numbers racket.
Once an excellent student, Ella found herself not pursuing an education, having escaped a highly abusive reform school in upstate New York and living hand-to-mouth at best.
It was a very tough time. She didn't care to talk about it. But then her friends kind of dared her to, sign up for Apollo's amateur night.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's star time at the Apollo Theater.
Still popular to this day, amateur night at the Apollo is no small thing. But Ella wasn't thinking much of it. She was there to have fun. She was 17 at the time, homeless, and living in Harlem. The plan was to dance, but after being intimidated by some dancers, she wasn't going to perform. What's remarkable is that if she hadn't been dared to sing that night, her life could have taken a very different turn.
She was planning on dancing. And she sees this act before her and she's like, oh no, I can't do that. I'm not good enough.
According to lore, the stage manager said, you got to get out there. Is there anything else you can do? And Ella replied, well, I can sing a little. And he shoved her out there. She sang a Connie Boswell song and brought down the house.
The contest launched her career. A few months later, she was singing with Chick Webb's band, and people couldn't get enough of her.
I heard it came to town, a new kind of
She started recording albums and touring around the country, but that did not mean her troubles were over.
She had it tough, and some rough experiences, and certainly on the road. What I try and imagine is doing all of that as an African-American musician in the South. I was just reading a story, too, about when they were invited it was a performance in Australia. They had first-class tickets for the plane in Hawaii, and they were like on the plane. I don't know, for whatever reason, they had to get off. They made them get off the plane. They could not fly to Australia. They were like 3 days late, and it created all these problems in Australia. And of course, the airline claimed it wasn't racially motivated, but apparently later, I think they got a big settlement. For all of that, and then for her to still be just this like sweet person who just, like I say, it's just pure joy when you listen to her sing. There's no other way to describe it. It's what it is.
Her press agent, Phoebe Jacobs, that I knew for a number of years, told me a story when they were in the South and they checked into a hotel and they realized Phoebe Jacobs and Ella Fitzgerald are going to share a room, white and black. And this was a no-no. And Phoebe Jacobs said, at one point we realized we have to get out of the room, and they jumped out the window. Can you imagine?
Now I'm all through with this stuff they call symphony. Come on, boys, and sort of rock it for me.
It was clear that Ella's sound was so special, and her rise was stratospheric. By the age of 30, she was on the Carnegie Hall stage. Considering her humble youth, that she was performing at Carnegie Hall, the most famous concert hall on the planet, was a miracle in itself. She made her debut there on September 29th, 1947, alongside Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker.
We had a policy at Carnegie Hall for classical artists. Anybody who wanted to come back after the concert could do so without being on a list. First, you'd let back the family, the managers, then VIPs, and then let back the crowd. And sometimes those backstage events took as long as the concert time took. But for rock concerts, jazz, and pop shows, it was always VIP lists. And so one night I made a mistake, and I don't know why I made the mistake, but I said, to her, would you like the crowd to come back after the concert, And she said, oh, yes, you better let them back. Someday they may not want to come. And I thought, what? But to me, that summed her up in a really humble way, and then to go out and knock them dead.
She had a really rough growing up time. She was not secured, even though she was selling out Carnegie Hall, selling out the Hollywood Bowl, and selling out the biggest rooms in Las Vegas. She came alive when she sang. If she's not singing, she's kind of stiff and uncomfortable. So the concert stage was where she loved to be.
She said she was never nervous going on stage.
This is Kathleen Sabogal, director of Carnegie Hall's Rose Archives and Museum.
But off stage, that's when she would be a little more nervous around people or anything, but on stage, totally fine.
My mama done told me when I was in pigtails. My mama done told me a man's gonna sweet talk and give you the big eye. But when the sweet talking's done, a man is a two-face, a worrisome thing who'll leave you to sing the blues in the night.
And she always just exudes so much joy, just like this pure joy in her singing. It's just, it's amazing. And she's, having started in the swing era, that's in the 30s. She was singing swing. She was with Chick Webb's band, led that band when Chick Webb dies. She's like barely out of her teens. And then starts hanging out with Dizzy Gillespie and the bebop musicians, and then totally learns that style. And of course, that kind of what comes to define her, with her scat singing.
Samara Joy's 2021 album covers some of the most enduring jazz standards of the last decades, including some of Ella's signature songs. Samara is a reflection of how Ella's music will always influence the new generation.
I was just listening to her. There's this album called The Greatest Jazz Concert in the World, and it was recorded in the 60s, but released in, I believe, 1975. And she sings this standard called Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. And she starts scatting. And I was actually in the car with this pianist on the way back from a gig, and I showed him the song, and it was like, wow, it's perfect. Like, it doesn't sound like there's any question of what note she's singing. And that can be hard, being a scat singer. You don't have keys. Those are the couple of musical things that I've noticed listening to her. It's like her tone, it's bright, but it's still warm.
And that's one of the things that makes Ella so special. Not needing to be the center of attention and staying true to her moniker, Lady Ella.
Ella was not a diva. People don't understand. When it was time to be at rehearsal, she was there on time and ready to go. She was never late. She didn't make big flashy entrances. She was a very, very hardworking woman.
It's funny, I was just thinking also, I hadn't thought about this for years, the artists that I work with backstage, more often than not, would give you a tip, whether it was there in the dressing room or when you were taking them down the stairs and putting them into the car. And sometimes they'd make a show of it. It just dawned on me now that Ella, when I would shake her hand and say goodnight, she would do this, and inside was a bill that was wrapped up so tiny that it was, I almost dropped it the first time because I wasn't sure what was going on. But she wanted that to be between she and I. You know, it was just a really subtle gesture that I just never forgot that either. You know, and I mean, I just remembered now that it tells you something about her as well.
And yet we can't underestimate just how influential and well-established Ella was.
One day, I opened the drawer in her bedroom dresser, and I started to scream. I mean, really loudly, because it was an original Picasso pen and ink drawing of Ella. I held in my hands a Picasso. Yeah. Ella's manager, Norman Granz, who was a nice kid from LA, was very good friends with Picasso. So when Ella was performing in the south of France, Ella met him and he drew this little sketch. And then Norman went on to use it for a lot of posters and publicity materials. So that was 1996, going through Ella's house, room by room, shelf by shelf, cabinet by cabinet, and seeing what was there. It was a really good job.
When Ella was performing, she became mainstream, bringing jazz singing to the masses. Some of you listeners may remember the original Memorex commercials.
I had forgotten about this, but those of us who are old enough to remember recall the Memorex commercials from the 70s. Is it live or is it Memorex?
Ella Fitzgerald. She's attempting to shatter a glass with her amplified voice. She did it. You are now hearing the Memorex cassette tape recording we just made of Ella. Now you'll see a glass shatter again. But is it Ella or is it Memorex?
I'll never tell.
They came to her as the spokesperson because what they would do is there was, this story about, an opera singer could shatter a glass, a wine glass. And they were going to start with that apparently, but they thought, no, it's a little too highbrow. Let's get somebody who's more recognized by more people. So they get Ella.
There are so many stories that shine some light on her true character. The fact that she kept a Picasso in a desk drawer is one. And then there is the story of her glasses.
I don't mean this to sound disrespectful, but they're like when you talk about Coke bottle bottom glasses. I mean, the lenses are extremely thick, and you look through them. I mean, it's almost like holding up a magnifying glass.
She had, as you can imagine, a lot of pair of eyeglasses.
She always had those glasses, and it's always like the same style glasses. I'm sure she had a couple of pairs. So I just think that's so tied to who she is. And like we're saying, they're very simple, and it just reflects probably who she was, just not fancy, but, very special.
It's these objects, these relatively simple things that always manage to bring the history of Carnegie Hall alive in a way that other things do not. It kind of makes you feel like, wow, like if she could, this is Ella Fitzgerald, yet, I don't know, it's just this very simple object, and it humanizes her, brings her down to earth, I guess, in a way that people can approach.
I mean, for me, it represents her humanity and her frailty and the fact that she conquered that to be who she was.
We
When she first had to start wearing glasses, she was so upset. She thought it wouldn't go with her image and people wouldn't like the way she looked and she wouldn't be popular. And she needed great, big, thick glasses. So often she didn't want to wear them. And they became like one of her signatures. The Annie Leibovitz photo with the cat's eye glasses, her big, thick Coke bottle glasses.
Your lips were like a red and ruby chalice, warmer than the summer night.
She had lost a lot of weight by then. Diabetes was tough. So that became her new look. Then Ella with big glasses. There had to be 25 pair of glasses in her house.
It's all these objects like that, very everyday things that can become iconic.
Suddenly you held me tight.
Objects just make you think about the person. So when you have it on display with the record album and you see her wearing the glasses, it just comes alive in a special way that it can't be by just looking at a photo.
I know as long as I'm alive, I'll always be indebted to artists like her, for helping me to find my own voice. Through her confidence and through her creativity and the amazing sound, the sound of her voice, her name will never die. It's like when you think of jazz and when you see a picture of her, it's like, okay, yeah. That's the real deal right there. You can't forget about her.
I could see the midnight sun.
Many thanks to Clive Gillinson and the dedicated staff of Carnegie Hall, as well as guests Samara Joy and Fran Rosman. You've been listening to If This Hall Could Talk, a podcast from Carnegie Hall, where we take you on a journey through some of the most iconic pieces in our archives, the objects that set the foundation for what the Hall is today. For images of the artifacts and more information on Carnegie Hall's Rose Archives, please visit carnegiehall.org/history. If This Hall Could Talk is produced by Sound Made Public, with Tanya Katenjian, Philip Wood, Emma Vecchione, Sarah Conlisk, Alessandro Santoro, and Jeremiah Moore. Lead funding for the digital collections of the Carnegie Hall Susan W. Rose Archives has been generously provided by Carnegie Corporation of New York, Susan and Elihu Rose Foundation, and Mellon Foundation, with additional support from the National Endowment for the Humanities, the National Film Preservation Foundation, and the Metropolitan New York Library Council. Our show is distributed by WQXR. We'd like to thank our partners there, including Ed Yim and Elizabeth Nunemaker. To listen to the full season, subscribe to If This Hall Could Talk wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to support the show by sharing it with your friends and leaving us a review and a rating on your favorite podcast platform. And if you happen to come across some special artifact from the history of Carnegie Hall, let us know. You can reach us at ifthisHallCouldTalk@carnegiehall.org. We are always on the lookout. Thanks for listening. I'm Jessica Vosk.